Welcome to this in-depth exploration of the blueprint for service value. In our previous discussions, we established that ITIL-4 is an evolved framework designed to manage IT-enabled services within the complexities of the modern digital landscape. However, to truly master this framework, we must look beyond just the service value system and understand the underlying structure that supports it. This presentation focuses specifically on the 4 dimensions of ITIL-4 service management, a model that serves as a foundational blueprint for creating and delivering value in an integrated way. As we navigate this blueprint, we will see how these dimensions provide the necessary balance to ensure that an organization's service management efforts are not just efficient, but also effective and resilient. We aren't just looking at technical processes. We are looking at the holistic architecture of a service-oriented organization. By the end of these 15 slides, you will understand how to use these dimensions as a strategic checklist to ensure every aspect of your service contributes to value co-creation for all stakeholders. Before we dive into the solution, we must understand the problem it solves. An imbalanced approach to service management almost inevitably leads to failure. In many traditional organizations, silos develop where different departments work in isolation, having limited visibility into what others are doing. This lack of transparency means a siloed organization cannot act quickly enough to take advantage of new opportunities or optimize its resources. Failing to address all 4 dimensions of service management properly may result in services that are undeliverable or that fail to meet the expectations of quality and efficiency. For instance, if you neglect the value streams and processes dimension, your organization will likely suffer from wasteful work and a constant duplication of effort. If you ignore the partners and suppliers dimension, you risk misaligned outsourced services that don't actually support your goals. Perhaps most critically, an unbalanced view of people or technology often causes severe cultural friction or results in the implementation of unsustainable solutions that look good on paper but fail in the real world. These risks underscore why a balanced, multidimensional view is essential for survival in a complex market. The ITIL-4 solution to these challenges is a framework of 4 interconnected dimensions. This model provides a strong, unified, and value-focused direction for the entire organization, ensuring the service value system, SVS, remains balanced and effective. Think of these dimensions as the 4 pillars that hold up the roof of your service value. If one is shorter than the others, the whole structure becomes unstable. The 4 dimensions are organizations and people, information and technology, partners and suppliers, and value streams and processes. These aren't just a list of items to check off. They are perspectives that must be considered for every service. They are highly integrated and often overlap in unpredictable ways. By using this holistic blueprint, an organization can prevent the common pitfalls of siloed work, ensuring that changes made in one area are always considered in the context of the other 3. This leads to more resilient and value-focused services that are managed as a whole system rather than just a collection of disconnected parts. The first dimension we explore is organizations and people. As organizations grow in complexity, it is vital to ensure that their structure, management, and systems of authority are well-defined and support the overall operating model. This dimension isn't just about an org chart. It's about how roles, responsibilities, and communication channels are managed to support the business strategy. There are 3 key elements to consider here. First is structure. While formal structures and roles are essential, they are insufficient on their own. Second is culture. An organization needs a culture rooted in trust and transparency that supports its objectives, and leaders must actively champion the values that motivate people. Finally, there are the people themselves. There is a growing need for professionals who possess a mix of broad general knowledge combined with deep specialization. To see this in practice, look at Axle Car Hire. Their CIO, Henry, notes that for Axle, this dimension includes not just the IT team, but other vital groups like procurement, HR, and facilities, all of whom must work together to support their car hire services. The second dimension is information and technology. When applied to the service value system, this includes both the information and knowledge necessary for managing services and the specific technologies required to do the work. It also incorporates the relationships between different components of the SVS, such as the inputs and outputs of various practices. We must look at this from two perspectives. For service management, this includes tools like workflow systems, knowledge bases, and analytical tools. For IT services, it covers the information managed by the service, such as customer data, and the enabling technologies like applications, databases, cloud, AI, and blockchain. Key considerations here include ensuring that the information architecture is continually optimized for availability, reliability, and accuracy. Furthermore, security and regulatory compliance, such as GDPR, are critical components of this dimension that cannot be overlooked. Henri from ITIL points out that for them, this dimension encompasses the information managed by teams, as well as the technologies that support their booking app and financial systems. To truly understand the information and technology dimension, we must look at the massive impact of cloud computing. The cloud is a model for enabling on-demand network access to a shared pool of configurable computing resources that can be rapidly provided with minimal management effort. Transitioning from on-premise infrastructure to cloud services fundamentally changes how IT service management, ITSM, works. First, it shifts the focus from managing in-house physical infrastructure to managing partner services. Second, it alters the cost structure by removing specific capital expenditures, CAPEX, and replacing them with operating expenditures, OPEX. While this can be more flexible, it also introduces new requirements, such as higher needs for network availability, security management, and compliance. Perhaps most importantly, cloud computing enables velocity. The elasticity of cloud infrastructure allows for significantly faster deployment of new and changed services, which is a key driver for DevOps and faster time to market. This spotlight shows how a technological shift directly impacts an organization's financial and operational strategies. Moving to our third dimension, we have partners and suppliers. This dimension encompasses an organization's relationships with other businesses that are involved in the design, development, deployment, delivery, support, or continual improvement of its services. The reality is that every organization relies on services from others to function. An organization's strategy should clearly define its approach to sourcing. Should the focus stay on core competencies, or should the organization rely more heavily on internal resources? These relationships exist on a wide spectrum, ranging from simple formal contracts for goods to flexible partnerships with shared goals and risks. At Axle Car Hire, Henri explains that their partners and suppliers dimension includes everything from GoGo Gas and Craig's Cleaning to their internet service providers and external software developers. Understanding this dimension is about recognizing that your organization is part of a larger supply chain, and your success depends on how well you manage these external dependencies. To manage the partners and suppliers dimension effectively, we must understand the spectrum of sourcing relationships. The form of cooperation an organization chooses depends entirely on its strategy and objectives. In a goods supply relationship, the output is simply the goods supplied, like buying computers, and the supplier is responsible for the output, while the customer is responsible for the outcome. As we move towards service delivery, such as IaaS cloud computing, the provider is responsible for the service output, but the responsibility for the final outcome still rests with the customer. At the far end of the spectrum is a service partnership. Here, the value is co-created, and the responsibility for both outputs and outcomes is shared between the provider and the customer. This level of partnership often involves shared goals, flexible case-based arrangements, and generic agreements, such as the deep collaboration required when HR and IT work together on employee onboarding. Identifying where a relationship sits on this spectrum is vital for setting correct expectations. The fourth and final dimension is value streams and processes. This dimension is concerned with how the various parts of the organization work in an integrated and coordinated way to enable value creation through products and services. It essentially defines the how of the organization's operations. A value stream is a series of steps an organization undertakes to create and deliver products and services to consumers. It is a combination of various value chain activities and optimizing these streams is key to improving efficiency and the user experience. A process, meanwhile, is a set of interrelated activities that transform specific inputs into outputs. Processes define what is done, while procedures and work instructions detail who does it and how. Axle Car Hire utilizes multiple value streams. For example, they have one stream for providing standard services, a customer hiring a car, which starts with engagement and proceeds to delivery. They have another distinct stream for innovation, developing biometric solutions, which is triggered by opportunity and involves more planning and design activities. Now that we have explored each dimension individually, we must emphasize a core principle. These 4 dimensions do not have sharp boundaries and may overlap significantly. They will sometimes interact in unpredictable ways, which is why it is essential that these perspectives are considered for every single service. A holistic approach is the only way to prevent the pitfalls of siloed work. It ensures that changes in one dimension, like a new technology, are always considered in the context of the others, such as how that technology affects people and processes. This leads to more resilient and value-focused services. Marco, the IT delivery manager at Axle, explains this perfectly. To make services as effective as possible, they use a best combination of people, teams, and value streams. They engage a blended approach to service management, striving to be efficient and lean while automating wherever possible. The goal is always to manage the service as a whole, not just its individual parts. While the 4 dimensions focus on the internal workings of service management, we must also account for the external environment. No organization exists in a vacuum, and to manage services effectively, one must understand the external factors that constrain and influence operations. The 4 dimensions themselves are shaped by this broader context. We use the PESTLE model to analyze these factors: political, government policies, or stability; economic, market trends, inflation, or exchange rates; social, changing consumer behaviors or demographics; technological, new innovations like AI or the cloud; legal, regulatory requirements like GDPR or employment laws; environmental, sustainability goals, and climate impact. By looking at this outer ring of the blueprint, an organization can anticipate shifts in the landscape and adjust its 4 dimensions accordingly to remain compliant, competitive, and relevant to its customers. In summary, by giving each of the 4 dimensions an appropriate amount of focus, an organization ensures its service value system, SVS, remains balanced and effective. Using these dimensions allows you to avoid silos, moving beyond disconnected efforts toward a truly integrated approach where information flows freely. It encourages you to think holistically, ensuring you understand the complex interplay between your people, technology, partners, and processes. Finally, it allows you to manage for value. You should use the 4 dimensions as a strategic checklist for every service initiative. Before launching a new service or changing an existing one, ask, have we considered the people and culture? Is the technology secure? Are our partners aligned? Are the processes lean and efficient? If you can check all 4 boxes, you are well on your way to ensuring that every aspect of your service contributes to value co-creation for all stakeholders. To ensure we are all speaking the same language, let's review the key terminology from this blueprint. These 4 perspectives are critical for the effective and efficient facilitation of value in the form of products and services. Organizations and people, the structure, management, roles, and culture of the organization. Information and technology, the information, knowledge, and technologies required for service management. Partners and suppliers, the relationships with other organizations involved in the service lifecycle. Value streams and processes, the activities, workflows, controls, and procedures needed to achieve objectives. Additionally, remember that a value stream is the series of steps undertaken to create and deliver products to consumers, while a process is the set of interacting activities that specifically transform inputs into outputs. Mastering these definitions is the first step toward implementing the ITIL 4 framework successfully within your own organization. It is important to visualize where this model fits within the broader ITIL 4 framework. The four dimensions model is one of the two key components of ITIL 4, and it works in direct conjunction with the service value system, SVS. While the SVS represents the what and the how of value creation through components like guiding principles, governance, the service value chain, and practices, the four dimensions act as the context and constraints for all of them. As the diagram shows, the four dimensions model applies to all components of the SVS. You cannot have effective governance without considering organizations and people. You cannot have a high-functioning service value chain without optimizing value streams and processes. You cannot implement management practices without the right information and technology. By wrapping the four dimensions around the SVS, ITIL 4 ensures that the system remains balanced, holistic, and focused on the real-world environment in which the organization operates. We conclude this presentation by emphasizing that the architecture of the ITIL SVS, supported by the four dimensions, is specifically designed for flexibility, not rigidity. It actively discourages siloed working by providing an integrated view of the business. In this framework, activities and practices do not form a fixed, unchangeable structure. Rather, they can be combined in multiple different value streams to address the unique needs of an organization in a wide variety of scenarios, from routine service delivery to high-speed innovation. Ultimately, this holistic blueprint is not meant to be a rigid plan that you follow blindly. It is an adaptive framework for building resilient, value-driven services in a constantly changing digital environment. By mastering these four dimensions, you gain the agility to pivot when the market shifts while maintaining the stability required to deliver consistent value to your customers.